What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I've got the honor and pleasure of welcoming Mr. Brent Pohlman. Brent, how are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Greg. I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be a fun time. Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this too. We had to reschedule once because I got sick last week, but we're good to go.
That's good. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So for those of you that don't know Brent has always had an interest in becoming a great leader. He has worked on a variety of managers and leaders of various companies, Arthur Andersen, Mutual of Omaha, and HDR. He has read many leadership and management books too. And the one thing that was missing for Brent was owning his own leadership. And that meant looking deep inside his heart to understand who he was and what exactly it looked like for him. In the last few years, Brent has invested time in better understanding who he is and what he stands for. In order to effectively lead people, Brent discovered the power of owning himself and living with a strong why. Brent has gone through a major transition in the last 5 years and tells his story in his book, Leaders Look Within. Brent impresses in his talks on leadership as personal with each person and has to find it for themselves to truly be an effective leader. Brent's hope that with his talk, it will bring the message of leadership to you. We need leaders who lead from the heart like never before. Brent is the president and CEO of Midwest Laboratories. Brent's goal is to grow a culture at Midwest Laboratories where people are always first. And when Brent isn't working, he spends time with his wife, Michelle, and their 5 adult children and 3 grandchildren. Brent, let's talk leadership, brother. This is one of my favorite topics.
It's one of my favorite topics. I think over my whole career, I've always wanted to be a great leader, but I didn't know what that looked like. Maybe I think many people can relate to that message where we didn't really grow up with great leaders. Mm-hmm. We might have had managers, directors, but as far as a leader, I don't know of myself. I didn't really have that really strong connection with a great leader that I worked for. Mm-hmm. And so, I'll start with a little bit about me, and then let's get into all about leadership. Yeah. So currently, in my role as president and CEO of Midwest Laboratories, I took over my father's company. I came back in 2005. We run an analytical testing lab. We have 300 employees. We're in 3 verticals: human health, animal health, and agriculture and environmental work. We are a production lab. We do lots of sample tests at one time, and then we get results out to companies, clients in 3 to 5 days. Mm-hmm. The company has grown since 1975. We're in its 49th year. Sometimes I think we're a 49-year-old startup, but I know my dad doesn't like that. But I just feels like change is ever just happening all the time. And I really wanted to build on my father's legacy. And he started something great here. And that was really, as far as being a leader, that's what I wanted to continue to do. Mm. So that's probably in my last... I took over in 2015 with my dad, and I had to learn a lot with my dad as a leader. I learned quite a bit through that process. And then about 5-6 years ago, when my dad retired at the age of 80 in 2020, that's when, again, we had to really come to grips with who we were, what we stood for, and where we wanted to go with the company. Mm. And through that, I'll just tell you, I think, I don't know if you're about like me, but I've read a lot of leadership books. At home, I have thousands of books. I probably found a nugget or 2 out of each one. Mm-hmm. And as I thought about that a lot, I decided, it was probably time to write my own book. And I think by doing that, I really discovered who I was. So as a leader, who am I to write another book, another one of the 1,000 books? So what I decided was, you know what? I want to be an outstanding leader. And what does that look like? And I don't really think I had the answer to that until I really discovered what was inside of here in my heart and how could I take that out and really drive effective leadership throughout the company. Yeah. And I would just say those of people who are really looking for leadership, it really starts with you. I think leadership is so personal, and you got to find it for yourself. Nobody can tell it to you. You can read thousands of books. You may never find it. You got to really start with yourself.
Mhm. No, you're absolutely right. And to back up a little bit, you talked a lot
Mhm.
about managers and leaders, and I agree with that sentiment that there are a lot of managers in a lot of different organizations and companies and industries, not enough leaders. And so when I was in the military, one of the ways that we used to talk about leadership was we say that managers, they drove performance, they drove numbers.
Mhm.
So getting sales targets or making sure that you hit numbers for the quarter, that's a manager's job. A leader drives potential. A leader lifts people up to a new station, to a higher station. And
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
that was how I understood best the difference between a manager and a leader.
Yeah.
And
I
so
I can totally relate with that. I would say as when I was a manager before I came here, and even here to some extent, I was very transactional. I mean, I definitely looked at the numbers, and that's what drove me. I worked 10, 12 hours. I thought you had to work harder and harder to get those numbers up with your team. And that was really what it was all about. But as you said best, leading is about lifting others up, and it requires coaching. I think too. I think coaching is a key part of
absolutely.
leadership as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And coaching can come in a lot of different forms, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And for you, it sounds like that you did a journey within,
Yeah.
right? In order to understand more of yourself. And that helped your leadership and your coaching ability just by doing that kind of work, right?
It did. It did. Yeah. So let me give you some examples of that. So when I took over with
Mhm.
my dad came from the hard 70s. I mean, if you weren't working hard all the time, 8 hours a day at your desk doing something, he was, you'd probably hear from him. I mean, he was just like that. He ran a lean and mean shop here, very profitable. Um, but it was just different. I knew there was just something that's hard. That's just hard, managing. He was in the day to day all the time. And then when I saw that, I had to really think about why he was doing that. And obviously, it was because he knew what a profitable company looked like, and he did those things in order to make the company profitable and take. He thought he was taking care of the employees that way, and he was. So I think it's taking those opinions first and just really, why did this happen? How did I get to where I am today? How can I take this learning even from my previous jobs, and how is this forming me? And
Mhm.
I think that was the first step. The second one, what's inside, I was highly reactive. I mean, if I didn't agree with you, I would tell you right away. I wouldn't even give it a second thought. That reactiveness I also took home. I know I was reactive with my family and with my kids. And to this day, I just remember everything just being so reactive because I was in the day to day every single day. I wanted to look at the numbers, as you said, every day and make sure that I was on track to do the same thing.
Mhm.
But what it took was somebody really to say, "What's in your heart? Why are you doing this? Why are you getting up every day? It can't be this hard work." And I really didn't. I All of us think we have a strong why. I thought I did too. I had a person, Dana, that I work with today. She kept asking me, "What's your why?" And she wouldn't let it go because I wasn't. I would say something and she'd question it, and then I'd change it. She says, "You really don't have a strong why." She says, "You need that," and she was absolutely right. You have to have a strong why of why you get up every day, what this job is all about, what's the purpose, your mission, your vision, and that was probably the wake up call for me was just understanding what's inside of me and having someone get that out of me because I
Mhm.
think I had buried it for so long. I was in the day to day, like I said, and not even thinking about this stuff.
And when she started first asking you this and you were answering poorly, what would you say your why was?
Oh, and at that time,
Yeah.
I just, I want to be a great leader. I want a great company. I want to grow the company. I would just say things like that.
Mhm.
Basically, it's based on metrics. And I will never forget, we went to a conference, and it was in Austin, Texas. And we missed our flight was going to be delayed. And we took an Uber from Austin to Dallas. Well, how long a Uber ride that is.
Yeah.
For 2.5 hours, she asked me about what my why was, and I couldn't give her an answer that whole trip. And
Wow.
so I had to go, I had to work with a coach. I literally had to work with somebody to really get that pulled out of me. And my why and my how today is I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart. And I have to say that every single day. And it really drives me. There's something to that. And that was really the start for me to get my leadership on track and where it needed to go.
Yeah. And so what did you notice when you realized your why? You started working with a coach, which I think is fantastic. Because there's something about having somebody else that's been through you what you've been through, had the same discoveries within, that they can talk you through it, or they can work and walk alongside you while you're doing it. That really does help the process, right?
Oh, it does. It does.
So much.
So yeah, it really started there. And then I discovered things like self-care. Well, I
Yeah.
used to think self-care was selfish. I never took care of myself.
Yeah.
Well, how can a leader not take care of themselves and expect to take care of the others? You can't do it. You can't do it. So that was really the wake up call for me, is I had to get healthy. And by doing that, I had to have a routine. I had to put a routine together. So
Mhm.
every day I get up, I do some type of physical activity. I journal, and I start the day every single day like that. And if I don't do that, I know that I'm not going to bring my best self. And my
Mhm.
goal is to bring my A game every single day, because the employees will see it. And so that was step two, was really that understanding that I got to get healthy. I got to really take care of myself, or if I'm going to take care of the lives of others here.
That's powerful that you had that realization. That's actually pretty normal for a lot of C-level executives, C-suite executives, but also for young entrepreneurs that are starting like the grind, right? They
Oh, yeah.
feel like I gotta grind, I gotta do all this work because I'll be able to relax later. But they get into that routine and that rut of like always grinding, and it'll burn them out eventually. Like
They will.
you have to. The way I started, when I started doing my self-care, I literally started to color code my entire calendar, my schedule. And I had a color for 5 different buckets. And it was like personal/social. It was some kind of physical activity, like taking care of my body. It was taking care of my mind. It was spiritual, and it was work.
Mhm.
And so if I saw all work on a day, then I had to make sure I put even the smallest. If it was like a 20-minute phone call with somebody, to get a social phone call, just to reach out to a friend or to a family member and just decompress, then I had to do that. If it was to read the scriptures for 15-20 minutes that day, if it was to go outside and get a workout, do a walk or something, just do some kind of physical activity. But every day I made sure to have a color in every single area. And when I did that, I found I was a lot more productive when I did my work, because I brought my best self.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
it's incredible when you actually do that. Like, that was a system that I used, and it worked very well for me. Um, so you started getting this coaching. How long ago was that, and what was that transition like
That
when you
was
started coaching?
yeah, it was 5 years ago. I think I really need to understand myself better.
Oh,
And the things that I wanted, I wasn't seeing. And I don't think I realized the power in all of that.
mm,
Because people want leaders. We all want great leaders. And I think you have to build your awareness, and your awareness starts with yourself. You got to understand yourself better and get healthier. I wear a whoop. I have a whoop every single day. I track physical activity or walking, and as well as writing down things. And the writing down for me was really just setting an intention for the day, my top 3 goals.
mm,
What am I grateful for? And then I think the biggest one for me was, what am I uncomfortable with? I have to write down every single day, what was I uncomfortable with the day before? And by doing that, you really take the power out of where was I spending my time? I was worried about things that were so trivial, or getting reactive about things that were so bad. But through coaching, I discovered a huge negative self-talk that I had. And I actually had to work with another coach, and she made me wear a rubber band. And every time I said something negative, I had to snap myself and write down that negative thought and why I was having that negative thought. And in 1 month, the first day I started, I had 35 snaps. By the end of the month, I was down to 0. So I went from 35 to 0 in 1 month. but that activity really showed me how bad my negative self-talk had been.
Wow, that's incredible. It was only a month and
It
you
was
went
only
down
a
to
month.
0?
Yes, yes. But that
Wow.
first day, I was like, "Oh my goodness, I am so real." Who wants to be around? I mean, who wants to be around somebody like that?
Yeah.
That you just can't be effective if you're that.
What were some examples of the negative thoughts?
Um, I think I know what it was. I was in the day to day, just like my dad till he retired at 80. And then I was fortunate. I had Dana and I had a team that finally came to me one day and said, Brent, we need somebody, we need a visionary. We need somebody to help us get to the next level. You can't do that if you're in the day to day. And when you're in the day to day, everything defaults to you. You need to trust us. You need to let go and let us run this. We can help you, but you've got to get out of the day to day. And they were absolutely right. And that's hard too. When you've been in the day to day all the time, especially I think for entrepreneurs, I listen and I see a lot of people like that always in the day to day. You got to get a team behind you and surround you with the best people.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the key to being a successful leader is building that team and getting out of the way, just getting out of the way. Trust. You have to build that trust. And in the beginning, it's hard. If you don't trust right away, you gotta work at that. But it is, it's huge. It definitely is huge. And I will say, by being out of the day to day, I know more about the company than when I was ever in the company. I know more today than I did every day, single day when I was working with my dad in the company all the time.
And I just want to go back to this prevent technique because this is pretty profound.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that holds a lot of people back is their self-talk, is their negative, their limiting beliefs, right? And this is the same thing. It's negative self-talk. I can't do this because of XYZ, because I'm big boned, I can't lose weight. I can't look like that because of, it's not in my genetics, or I can never start a company because I'm not smart enough. Whatever it may be.
Right.
But having that technique, right, where you acknowledge it, it's almost like Tony Robbins talks about, like it's almost like a record, and you're trying to scratch the record so it can't keep playing the same song, and you're kind of scratching the record in order to stop that thought. You write it down. Why did I even have that? You take the power away, and then you keep going. 30 days, that's actually pretty quick in order to start to remove these negative thoughts from just happening, because when I think of that's our psyche, right? That's our psyche within us, and a lot of times these thoughts it's almost like a protective barrier in our mind that's keeping us from stepping outside into the unknown, from doing things that scare us, right? That like we may not succeed at because we're afraid of what will happen or what others will say or whatever the case may be. And so we've put these barriers in place that kind of control the self-talk. And so a lot of this happens without even our acknowledgement. There's so many thoughts that go through our head. And so having that technique that you talked about, how profound was it when you realized from start to finish, especially towards the end, like now you have way more control. It's almost like this this presence, this awareness, this constant awareness in your mind at that point to drive your actions in a better way. How profound was that? Because that's got to be just miraculous.
It is life changing. And that's why I said the last 5 years have been transformational for me. I write this in the book. I give different techniques again that work for me, but no, it gives you the power to do things. I'll give you another example. If this on January 3rd, I thought I could play basketball with our company team. I'm 58 and these guys are in their 20s, and I'm running down the court and I fall and I'm like, gosh, I rolled my ankle and I thought, I rolled my ankle, it's all swollen. I can get back up. I go back in the game. I play some more. I get home. Next day, I can't even put any pressure on my right leg. I had fractured my knee, my right knee, fractured, total fracture. And if this happens, let's say 6 or 7 years ago, I'm a wreck. It probably would have taken me down. Today, I don't have to have surgery because I took care of myself. I have to stay off it till June. No activity to let it heal. So what did I discover? I discovered sitting workouts. I'm sitting on a box every single morning as part of my routine, and I'm doing boxing and I'm taking dumbbells. And I realized how weak my upper body was. It's totally weak. And now I have a whole new appreciation for seated workouts. And it's funneling that energy into something that, again, is going to drive me continue down that path, because I know every day I want to bring, again, my A game every single day. I want to grow the company. I want to be there and lift people up and let them experience their own goals and their dreams. But that's what I'm talking about. That's how powerful this is. You can look at things so much differently than I could 6 or 7 years ago. Absolutely.
Have you ever read the book the Untethered Soul
No,
by
I haven't.
Michael Singer?
I've
So
heard of it. Yeah.
it's a fantastic book, and for anyone's
Okay.
listening, you need to read this book. This is a fantastic book. But what you're talking about really is reminiscent of the Untethered Soul. And one of the things he talks about is that we all have the power to decide to be happy without any justification or reasoning past that happiness. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to be happy if I can play this basketball game and I don't get injured, because if it happens, I'm not going to be happy, right? It's just as I'm just going to be happy.
Yeah.
And what he talks about is like, it's not that the world doesn't have bad things that happen. It's just that it doesn't affect you anymore.
Right.
Because you've already decided in your heart and in your soul that you're going to be a happy person regardless of the circumstances. And in turn, what happens is that you have a deeper appreciation for life and everything. And so, like your situation, you're like, hey, I hurt my knee. One, you're not going to have to get surgery. But two, man, I can now work on my upper body, and it really needed it. Like, it's a different appreciation for it, and I think that's just incredible.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. Like I said, and I think people see that you actually live it. You live it. That's the other thing. It's not some phony baloney. I used to think, somebody was happy or something, or people talk about feeling the energy in the room. I didn't 7 years ago. I couldn't do that. I thought that was all hogwash. Now today, it's like, ooh, something's going on here. I can tell something's going on, and that's crazy. It is. But it's a whole mindset, like you said. It's got to be. You've got to work on it yourself and be so aware of what you have before, again, that you can experience these. It's almost like an experience. You can't experience it if you don't know it. You could live your whole life and never know these things, and a lot of people do.
A lot of people, sadly, a lot of people do. No, you're absolutely right. I've been on a similar journey myself, and I've done a lot through meditation of like of understanding myself, digging deep, and I've done a lot through what I found in my life in the past 2.5 years or so is that the more intentionally challenging things that I do, or I intentionally put myself in a position that's uncomfortable, that I don't really want to do, but I'm like, I want to push my limits. The more I do it, the more happiness that I find. And it kind of grows my mind and aligns me more spiritually. And the more that I've done it, the more I feel in like a mental, physical, and spiritual alignment in my life. And it opens up a different way to look at things, and even to myself. And so a lot of the times I was like, oh, I can never do that because of this. And then I end up doing something similar or something maybe adjacent. It's like, well, if I did this, then I could probably do that. And then now, because I'm thinking that, my awareness of what I used to say comes into light, right? And so I've been on a very similar journey. It's been a different one than yours, but I think we're on the same path, just two different paths, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like digging this conversation, because I'm telling you, like what you're saying is really much in tune with a lot of the things that I've read with meditation, with like self-search, with the Untethered Soul with Michael Singer, like I mentioned earlier. So this is profound, and there's so many people out there that could change their life drastically just by understanding themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I know you're going to say yes to the next part, but I got to say it. It really is what I'm learning more and more, especially this year, is values driven. What you waking up with a heart of gratitude. What do you value most? That really drives us. The news just takes the energy, zaps the energy out of me. I can't even listen to it anymore because I don't know what's fake, and I don't spend any time there because it's not worth it. And I've really learned, if I'm going to connect more, and I really believe these three words: people, process, and technology. People first. I'm going to get more with people than I am with any process or any technology. I'll even say AI. I'd rather work with people because once you buy into people, once people know that you trust them, that power, that energy is greater than anything, and you will go farther and faster. And that's what I really learned. But it really starts with yourself, what you value, how you look at others, how you treat others. It's huge. It's huge, and it's very powerful, and it's part of the culture. That's our culture 5-6 years ago was not as great. It is so much. It's such a great culture now, but it really is value driven, not news, not media, not regulations. It's got to come from here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. People first, mission always, as the Army we used to say. And so you have been down this massive journey on yourself, and you went from being stuck in the day to day, being a manager in essence, a CEO manager, looking at the numbers, the data, pushing performance, and now you've done this transition over the last 5 years of really working on yourself. How has that changed your business?
The last 6 years, we've grown double digits every year. Every year.
Yeah.
We fight for things that most people would not fight for. Let me give you an example. Healthcare costs are huge right now. We worked with our brokers last year, and they said, I mean, you can probably guess what they said. You got to raise deductibles. You got to save money because the costs are going up. And we looked at them and said, why are costs going up? Where are the costs going up? What are employees, doing? Well, we found out by digging in deeper that they were going to, during the day, they weren't going to the doctors. They were going to urgent cares. They're going to the emergency rooms. All those costs, and we're self-insured. Our plan is self-insured, but they weren't seeking the medical advice or not seeing their doctors, and they're having these terrible things happen, and that were costing a lot of money in pharmaceuticals or surgeries and such. So what we decided to do, we told our broker, you know what, we're going to bring the medical team on site. So 3 days a week with our 300 employees, we have a medical office we partnered with a company here locally, and doctors and nurses come in 3 times a week, and our employees can go during the day, make appointments. And by the way, they also have preventive care, so they can work on their diets. They can work on getting healthier. But we wanted to bring those medical pieces here. We pay prepaid, so all their doctor visits are taken care of by the company. And they can actually now have a presence where I can get healthier, and I can do it while I'm at work. I don't have to take time off from my family. It's here, it's available 3 days a week. So we're trying that. We believe it'll bring the costs down by just doing those small changes and get our company healthier.
And it's thinking outside the box. It's asking the right questions instead of just taking things at face value.
Right.
Like, costs are going up. Okay, well, but why?
Exactly.
Like this doesn't make any sense. Let's find out. So okay. And so your business has doubled year after year. Now, where are you? Have you hit where you're? When you first started this journey, and your team looked at you like, "Hey, there's levels that we need to get to. Like, we need a visionary." Yeah. And they kind of set that standard. Have you hit there, or where are you guys looking?
We are busting at the seams right now. We purchased November 2020 during COVID. We bought a data center about 7 miles away. The building is 176,000 square feet building, and we're on a path to make that our new campus at some point. We tried 2 years ago. Costs went too high. We said, no, we need a different approach. We're going to try to do this again without borrowing too much money, without putting the company in jeopardy. But we have to move. We are breaking at the seams right now. When I give you volumes of tests, like on the soil side during fall, we get anywhere from 10 to 40,000 soils a day. So we need a team of about 80 people just to run those tests 3 to 5 days. On the pet food side, we get about 1,000, 2,000 samples a day. And so the tremendous growth that we're running on these tests and trying to get analyzed and get results out 3 to 5 days, it's an exciting business, and like I said, we continue to grow because food safety is, again, number one concern. Crops, all those things. I mean, people need testing to understand how they can manage their property or manage their food supply better. So, yeah, it's definitely growing. We continue to think outside the box, look outside the box. I think that's the most exciting part for me, is that that ideation that we're creating. We're scientists, but we're also creative. We're very creative. We try to come up with creative solutions, and I think that's what really gets to me is, wow, these people really they're thinking outside, because typically they all come from analytical backgrounds. You do this, you get this result. And now we're getting them. I'm seeing scientists go back and get their MBA because they want to lead people, which makes me so excited that they want to do things like that. They see the value in having a great team culture. So I think that just building that, it really does carry over into the day-to-day type of work that we do here.
That's fantastic. I'm really proud and happy to hear about the success that you guys have had, especially since you took the leap and said, I'm going to lead from the front. I'm going to make sure that I work on myself and become a better leader for the organization. Not many leaders do that. So
no. And
no,
yeah. And I've been blessed. I mean, my parents, I came from a really good home. I feel blessed. When my mom died, another story, I didn't want my dad to be alone. So we walked into this coffee shop on her birthday, and we looked up, and it said on the board, it said there, how can we pray for you? And I looked at my dad and I said, I think we need that in our office. So in our main entrance, there's a board there. Anybody, employees, guests, clients, vendors, can write anything on that board and know that it's being prayed for.
That's
and
awesome.
again, that's how we bring the values that we can do. We can do that in this country, thankfully. And we can make a difference in the lives of others without forcing any religion, without forcing anything it's all about respect. It's all about, again, building up the team here.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. That's a really good idea. So through your success, you over the past 5 years, you decided, I'm going to write a book. Talk a little bit about your book.
Yeah. So I think what I did was I started writing it in the midst of this transformation. And I think there was just so many big things in there that I thought, if somebody gets even an example or two, I think that's really all I'm looking for in this book. It's a very simple read. You can read it in about 2 hours. But I just thought, I just think people, if you want to be a leader, you've got to really look inside. You got to find it yourself. Nobody can do that for you. And I said that earlier, but that's really how I feel. You could take all the classes. I have an MBA, but there's no MBA on leadership. You could take all the classes in the world, but if you really don't look inside and really develop your own style, your own system of values, your own routine, I don't know where you're going to find the leadership piece. I think that's what I learned through it.
Yeah. Where's the best place? If anyone wanted to buy the book, where's the best place to buy it?
You buy it on Amazon right now. It's discounted. So if you search my name or Leaders Look Within, it's there. I'm going to have a website here at some point. The other one I will say, and I think you said it earlier, you got to really surround yourself with great people. So I'm always looking for great leaders to talk with, and I get the best ideas from people even outside my industry. I just like talking to good, solid leaders.
You'd be surprised how important that is to surround yourself and who you spend your time with. It's talked about by so many people. It's talked about all the time. And it's like the simple concept of like, hey, if you use an extreme example, if you hang out with 5 drug dealers, you're going to be the 6th kind of thing, right? Or if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th. But it's also just their energy and their thoughts and the way that they are does transfer to you. And you may think like, oh no, I think no. Every single thought and belief that we have been imposed upon us by the people that we spend our time with, either by family, by friends, by kids in school when we were growing up. But every single belief was not an original thought. it was something that was imposed upon you by somebody else. And when you start to realize that, you're like, oh, wow, I have to audit the people I'm spending time with.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
love that so much. In the book, I give one example that kind of builds on that.
yeah.
I'm a huge Chiefs fan. So this has been like the best ride as a Chiefs fan for years. So this was in 2005, but Dick Vermeil, if you remember Dick Vermeil, he was the coach of the Chiefs. And one summer I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna leave today. I'll be gone for the rest of the day. I'm going to a coach's clinic at Arrowhead Stadium with Dick Vermeil. And my wife looks at me, you're not a football coach. I said, I know. I signed up for, I don't know what, I wrote down a school. I said, I'm pretending to be a coach. I just want to be in the room with Dick Vermeil because I hear that he is such a great connection with his players. I got to see that. And so I spent the day down there. And when Dick Vermeil spoke for 2 hours, I'll just never forget that. And the connection he made with every single person in that room because he cares so much, that just had a profound effect. I was like, wow. This guy gets it. This is what a team is all about. These guys would do anything for this guy. As I listened to this guy, and I just thought it was huge. So to your point, who you surround, you take a piece of that everywhere you go, and you do, and it's worth it. If you know someone that you really is a great leader, spend some time with that person. By all means, you will not regret that time spent.
And if you're looking for different ways or different groups of people, I'll tell you this, and I'm not promoting this at all because I have no affiliation with this company. But if you want to get with very positive people that are looking to better themselves, and you want to get and they're open to talking with strangers, go to a Tony Robbins convention.
Yeah, that's what.
Go to Unleash the Power Within. He does them once a year. In fact, the next one is going to be, I think, November of this year in New Jersey is the next one. I'm definitely going because I went to the last one in November in Dallas. It was life-changing. I've never met a more elevated, positive group of people, and everybody was like that. And everybody talked to everybody. You can meet people from all across the world, and I'm literally all across the world. It's incredible the connections that you can make with these very positive people just by attending an event like that. It'll change your life. 100%.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. So Brent, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast and tell a little bit about your story, talk about your book and your business's success. One question I ask all of my guests before they at the end, before they jump off, is if you had the opportunity to sit down with, break bread with, learn and have a conversation with any 3 individuals in history, alive or deceased, who would they be and why?
Yeah, I think, well, number one, my first one would be Patrick Mahomes because again, I told you I'm a Chiefs fan.
Yeah,
that guy, his routine, he has a rigorous routine of physical activity. He keeps himself in such great shape, mindset. He is a winner through and through. I think we're witnessing the greatest quarterback. So he would be one definitely that I would see. Oh gosh. I know this is going to sound crazy, but the person I mentioned earlier, Dana Berkey, that I work with, she's incredible. She's leading our directors. I tell her all the time, I said, I just want to be a student in your class someday. I wish I could come back because, again, the whole coaching up, just the power she has. She invests so much time in our staff, in our directors, in our managers. I'm very fortunate. That I worked with somebody like that because she just understands. And we talk about some people call them soft wins. We talk about all the wins in our people that we see all the time. So I have to write down wins every day. 9 times out of 10, they're coming from employees that she has worked really hard with. I mean, hours she's spent with these people so that they, again, become as effective as they can. And then number 3, gosh, I would probably number 3. What would be a good? Those are my top 2. Number 3, I would probably say Tom Peters. I've heard him like 3 times. Kind of your Tony Robbins. Mine was probably Tom Peters. He's in his 80s now, but In Search of Excellence, all of his books. If there was one person that I read, even back in the 90s and 2000s, he was talking about women in leadership. He was really on the forefront of what leadership was all about. And I think the guy has just such a vision for what a winning company looks like, what leadership really is. And I think he really knocked it out with each and every one of his books that he kind of put out there. But I know he's getting up there in age, but every once in a while I'll hear him and he sounds like a grumpy old man. But I just think back to all the great leadership concepts that I learned through his writings.
I love those. I love all of those. They're all very unique. So and I haven't heard any of them. So Brent, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and spending time just sharing with the audience here. For anyone that's watching or listening, then do me a favor, share this content with somebody else that can also learn and grow from it. It takes you 30 to 60 seconds just to rate, review, subscribe, or share. But it means the world to both Brent and I. And also make sure you go check out his book, Leaders Look Within, and share that book. Anything that you learn from it, you can share it with another person. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.